Let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm David Staples of the Edmonton Journal, and I'm here today with Bruce McCurdy. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, David. How are you doing tonight?
I'm feeling a little crabby, Bruce.
Yeah.
I hate the Amazon broadcasts with a passion. Mainly because my main TV doesn't have. I can't do fast forward and rewind on it. So when there's a play, I can't rewind it. So I got to watch it on my computer, which is really small. And
Makes
just
your
the whole
job harder, right?
experience makes
Tracking
my job
scoring
harder. So,
chances.
but I think I don't know if it's just my TV or anyone who has TELUS who can't fast forward or rewind, or how common that is. But I don't think it's like, I think a lot of people like to do that when they're watching the game, to watch a
Oh,
play
sure.
again. So the fact
What
that you
else are
can't do
commercials
that on
for?
Amazon, it's just like, what century is this? Like, it's not the 1970s. Figure it out. Don't take over a broadcast unless you can give the fans the experience they're used to. And I also don't like just the alienness of the broadcast. It feels like I'm watching not the
Mhm.
Oilers, like not the home team. It
No.
doesn't feel like a home game. It feels like some weird game between two teams that neither of them that I root for. And and I don't like that either about the Amazon broadcast. If there's never another one, that's okay with me.
They had the
So
pom-poms out for Florida, I thought, but I'm biased. You know,
yeah, some people thought the refs did too, I guess.
they could, yeah, they could read into Matthew Kachuk's mind that he was trying to kick the puck into up to his stick. Therefore, him kicking the puck into the net was okay. They might as well do away with that kicking motion rule altogether. I mean, that was a kicking motion and it went in. Anyway, it was just one of a whole thwack of weird goals. So I'm not going to say it
Oh,
cost him the game, but it didn't help.
was it ever, eh? How many weird
Yeah.
goals against Skinner was there? At least three then.
Oh yeah,
So
and several at the other end as well. Like there was a whole lot of not clean about this game in terms of just the I have my concerns, frankly, David, about the ice at Rogers Place.
you
The
do.
puck is bouncing on everyone. They can't make a clean play with the puck. Tonight they were falling down over and over again. The Oilers had two defensemen fall down on plays that became goals for Florida, and the third one came out of the penalty box for a breakaway, and he fell down on a breakaway. I mean, what's going on? And I mean, I guess you can say none of these NHL players know how to skate, or maybe there's a common denominator that some nights the ice isn't good, and I think that's true for a lot of arenas. But I saw tonight what looked like a pretty sloppy ice surface, and I'll let an expert tell me I'm wrong. But
So Bruce, I have a new background here. It was made by, you can see that.
oh
It was
yeah,
made by
see
Celtic
most of it.
hockey fan Dino Wynn. Thanks, Dino.
Thank you, Dina.
Much appreciated. He saw my blank background and
Oh yeah,
he couldn't have that. So good for Dino. Thank you, Dino, for raising the
all
standards
right.
of this podcast. Who knew that that was possible, Bruce? Uh, this is our two good things, two bad things, and two numbers podcast. Bruce, what's your good thing?
Got to go with Zach Hyman tonight. Let's start with the major fact that he finished the game after getting schmucked in the face by a Evan Bouchard deflected shot from the point that can't look like it hit him in the visor, and hard enough that the visor itself came down and smashed his nose. And whether he's got a broken nose or not, I don't know. He came back for the third period wearing a full shield and a couple of tissues rolled up into his nostrils
Yes, it got
and
redder
carried
and
on, and
redder.
he damn near scored on his first shift back. Bobrovsky robbed him on a breakaway chance, and as I recall, Bobrovsky made another really terrific stop off of Zach in the third. This after he'd already scored twice. He's now up to 10 on the season. He's up to 7 in 6 games since he got snubbed from Team Canada, and he's on a major roll. Great shot for the first goal, great deke on the second goal, and he was just a force out there tonight, and in a good way. And the unfortunately the Oilers couldn't finish the job despite having enough goals. You'd think 5 goals would be enough to win against any NHL team, but not right now. Not right now.
What a great goal that second goal was. I mean, it starts off with a beautiful stretch pass from Draisaitl
Mm-hmm.
to McDavid, who gets knocked down and lunges to put forward to
To
Hyman, and
chip it
Hyman
through.
charges in, and then Hyman just makes a brilliant move and roofs it. What a
His
goal.
favorite
7 goals in 6 games, I think,
Yeah,
for Hyman now.
that's right.
So, yeah, he should have been on Team Canada, and I hope he still will be. I hope he still will be,
Well, he only
Bruce.
scored 70 goals last year, but he had a bit of a slow start and then he got hurt. So, Team Canada, no, 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 no. We got to put a few more friggin' Vegas Golden Knights on the team.
And his slow start, like analytically, wasn't slow. He was
Oh,
getting his two-way play in terms of creating grade A shots and limiting out the other one was just as good. He was snake bitten. And you'd think in the
huge
modern
pace
era of
differences.
analytics, and I've made this point before, I'm making it again because it really bugs me. In the modern era of analytics, they had to know that. What are they doing? Are they just going by their how their
There's
their
stats on
bunion on
November 25th.
their bunion on their heel feels, about a player? Like, is it like, some tingling in their gut? Anyway, it's ridiculous
Let's
decision.
forget about what they did in 107 games last year, and we'll judge them on 18 games and an injury in uh,
Nimrods.
in October and November. I'm not happy with Hockey Canada. I think they did a crap job.
I think they did too, Bruce. I'm gonna boycott the whole series. Just kidding.
I'm gonna watch it,
I
but
gotta watch it.
I'm not gonna like the team as much as I might because it's
Yeah.
they left off a couple guys I think should be on there, and a couple favorites as well. So anyway, whatever puts on the red maple leaf, I'll wind up rooting for him. But I have questions about the selection process and the clear case of recency bias.
My pick for my good thing, Bruce, is Leon Draisaitl. And at least according to our analytics, he was just outstanding tonight. He contributed to 10 grade A shots, four,
Oh,
two on the power play, eight at even strength, and he made not one mistake on a grade A shot against. So Leon, he really came to play tonight, and I mean he was culpable somewhat on the
on the
fifth
grade B
goal
shot, yeah.
on the grade B shot. So there is that. But he he's really, it's been said
His
many times,
pass
he's playing
back to
his,
the point, got tipped.
yeah, yeah. But he is playing his best hockey right now, Bruce. He's really coming through for the team, and he scored a rare executioner shot on the power play. We haven't seen that a lot this year. I haven't tallied it
It's
up
just,
yet. Maybe I'll do that later on as this podcast goes along. But he no one else scores that goal except for Connor Brown at even strength. But no one else scores that goal, Bruce, in the NHL but
not
Leon
many.
consistently. And it is such an amazing shot for him to make repeatedly year after year after year. And and I've said this before, it is the thing years from now when we think of this era, that's the play. That's the play that will be seared into our memories as we sit in our, daughterage in a chair, drinking a cup of coffee. That'll be on our heads. That play, McDavid to Draisaitl slamming it in. What a great scoring play.
Yeah, yeah. Leon now he had 2 points in this game. That's 6 games in a row with multiple points, and 13 out of 17 games. So the last 17 games, he's had 13 where he scored 2+ points. I think this was the first of those that they lost,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't lose it for lack of offense. But somehow he wound up -2 in this game, despite the 10-0 that you talk about. But of
Plus
course,
minus.
the shorthanded goal counts minus against everybody, no matter you know who
There you
makes the
go.
mistake. They all get it right, and that is the
Yeah.
big weakness with plus minus. And our system, we'll single out the guy that made the big mistake, and we'll
Yeah.
not necessarily exonerate the rest. We just won't ding him.
I mean, Roth Irvin plus minus, it was developed by Dick Irvin Sr.
Yep.
and I think it's Alan Roth, if
I
I'm,
believe that's correct. Yeah.
yeah,
I remember reading your
who was
post on it. Very interesting post, quite a number of years ago now.
yeah, who was a statistician for the Brooklyn Dodgers. He was he
Yeah.
was probably the
Right.
first person hired as a stats person in the world for a pro team, and went on to hockey. And he came up with the currently used system still in force in the NHL. In the late 40s, he did
Yeah.
for the Montreal Canadiens. And it has its weaknesses, but they didn't have video then. They couldn't go over the videotape to figure out who was responsible and who wasn't. It wasn't so easy to do. So that was the best they could do. And it's still it's, over a career for sure, it means something. If a player's like plus 400 in their career, they were a hell of a hockey player. No doubt about it. I don't know anyone who's plus 400 who isn't.
Well, the plus 400 guys are all from the 80s and 90s when they were dominant teams for years on end.
Yeah.
And that's kind of gone away. Uh, uh, any red-blooded analytics nerd will poo-poo plus minus at to a fault. I personally use it as a shorthand for outscoring, and I
Yep.
recognize that it's not perfect. I also recognize that all the other stats aren't perfect. You think Zach Hyman
Exactly.
would have scored 56 goals last year if he'd been on Derek Ryan's line and not Connor McDavid's? I don't.
Yeah.
But the numbers say he scored 56 goals. I mean, it's all such a team dependent thing. And
Yes.
it it's a shorthand. That's all it is. And then you can look at the shorthand and say, well, that's because he was on for 17 empty net goals against, or it doesn't. There are things that it does or doesn't do, but it basically tells you was when he was on the ice, did his team score more or the other guys? And as a fundamental piece of information, it's back of the envelope useful. I realize you can dig much deeper with things like 5v5 goals for percentage and stuff, and it's all there. And there's lots of other stuff that's underneath the major box cars, but it's one of the box cars. And I'm old enough, so old, so ancient, that I remember when plus minus was the sort of new cutting edge statistic that went beyond goals and assists and tried to analyze two-way play and whether it's perfect or not. It was the first attempt since duplicated by such exalted fancy stats as Corsi and shots and scoring chances that just measure for versus against and do differential between the two. It wasn't perfect, but it was the first attempt, and I frankly find its bad reputation is. I don't like it. As a stats guy myself, I recognize it as it was a step along the way, and it's still there as a back of the envelope shorthand, and I refer to it.
What's your bad thing, Bruce?
Oh, thing? I only get one?
You only get one.
Oh, okay. Okay, how about if I pick a pair then, defense pair? And tonight I'm going to have to single out the Oilers' first defense pair of Evan Bouchard and Matthias Ekholm is having a pretty dreadful night. Game got off to a very bad start when the Oilers got an early power play, won the face-off back to Evan Bouchard. And as he was trying to walk the blue line, he inexplicably lost his balance. My wife said he got tripped. I think he was already stumbling when Boquist's stick came in and chipped the puck away.
I think so
And
too.
away Boquist went in, and Evan was right out of the play, and nobody else could cut the guy off. And I didn't like the goal against either. You're going to talk about that. Then on the second goal late in the first period on the penalty kill, that was a weak failed clearance by Matthias Ekholm that allowed Florida to keep the puck in the dying seconds of a 4-minute penalty that was almost killed. And that failed clearance wound up in the back of Edmonton's net in short order. Bouchard, same shift as his breakaway. Like 8 seconds into the shift, he gives up a shorthanded breakaway, and then 8 more seconds after that, he takes an interference penalty. So then in the second period, and it's not really Bouchard's fault, but it's just kind of what kind of night he had when his shot got deflected right into the face of his teammate Zach Hyman. And, it's just like Bouch was was bad luck Schleprock in this game, and whatever was going to go wrong, he was going to be involved in some level. But honestly, in the third period, it was Ekholm. Uh, well, yeah, Bush and Kulak got burned on the 4-4 goal uh, that Mikula scored when there was only sort of two guys back, and all the other guys were milling around the benches. And the two guys did a piss poor job of covering their two guys, and they scored. And Bush was one of those two. I think Kulak probably got burned worse on that one. But then on the 5-4, the B shot from behind the net, where Draisaitl's pass gets tipped past Ekholm at the blue line. Ekholm's going back, and he's like got a 5-foot lead on the guy, and he stumbles and either falls or makes a really misguided play to dive for the puck, takes himself out of the play, and Reinhardt, who we might point out is a real sniper, and he jumped on the puck and took it just behind the goal line, and managed to zing one in right off the side of Skinner's head and squeeze it into that little hole over his shoulder. And that was kind of on Ekholm to me. And then on the 6-5, the game losing goal against, again, it was Ekholm who bobbled the puck behind the net, and then he made a really weak backhand clearance just up the boards right to the guy on the point. A couple passes later, Verhaeghe's alone in the slot with the puck, nobody around him, and Ekholm screening the goalie. Like, he really didn't help at all on that play. And I thought for him, a rare off night. For Bouchard, a slightly less rare off night. But the two of them together, I thought they had a rough time of it. Even as their underlying numbers were pretty okay in terms of the puck going in the right direction when they were out there, but their mistakes were big mistakes, and they wound up in the net.
Yeah. You mentioned the fourth goal against.
Yep.
Which would be, at that point, the tying goal in the third period.
Early in the third, yeah. It was ugly.
This was brutal by the Oilers, this game, honestly. Like, giving away this game was just brutal. And it happened in such weird fashion that it's kind of hard to put together, to process. Mm-hmm. But they were up 4-2, Bruce, halfway through the second, in total command of this game.
Should have been.
And they managed to give it away. So, and you know, we'll get into the other, but that fourth goal, what a strange goal that was. Like, with Skinner getting absolutely blasted in the neutral zone in front of the bench, and all the players milling around. And so Bouchard did give away the puck, but he was totally stranded at that point in his own zone. Yeah. There's two Florida Panthers coming in. There's no one not one forward has come back, because Skinner's kind of up.
Skinner and Kulak is all that's left. Yeah.
Skinner was knocked senseless. I think so. I'm not blaming him, because he didn't know where he probably didn't know where he was for a second or two. But Henrique wandered out of the play. Maybe someone else did too. I'm not sure. But that was a terrible play by the forward group. And Bouchard, yes, he gave away the puck, and Kulak, yes, he did the starfish and didn't block the pass, and it wasn't good for either of those guys. But really, the forwards were at fault. They have to be aware of the play. The play's not dead. It's ongoing, and these guys need help in their own zone. So get the F back there and help them out.
Yeah, my issue with Skinner was that he got the puck up to center, and then he completely whiffed on his shoot in, and he lost it in his feet. And while he was trying to pull it out of his feet, the Florida guy nailed him, which was, to me, legal, because Skinner had the puck. And just didn't make a clean play to get it deep, like many Oilers many times in this game.
Yeah.
Again, I wonder about the ice, because some of those clean plays just didn't seem to be there. Anyways, Bouchard, because there was only two Florida guys in the zone, rather than a weak backhand up the boards, a hard forehand around the boards, even was icing. They were kind of stranded back there, but put some mustard on that thing. There's too many half-baked, soft passes in this game that didn't seem to have any real intent to them, and they wound up going not just sideways, but backwards.
So Bruce, my bad thing is Stuart Skinner, whose streak of good games came to an end tonight. He faced 12 grade A shots and
Let's
let in
go.
6 goals against,
Mhm.
which is, you'd expect about 3 goals against, not 6. The first goal against was a kind of a break-in, breakaway, but the shooter only had half the net to shoot at, really, because he was coming in, Jesper Bokus coming in on the wing, and a save would have been really nice, Bruce,
Mhm.
on that play.
Short
It's
side, man. Not
it is
good.
it's a grade A shot. It's a difficult shot. Might
Yeah.
even be a 5 alarm shot. I can't remember how he marked it,
Well,
but
it was
it's not.
semi breakaway.
Yeah, but a save would have been really nice, and a save would have set the tone in that game for Skinner and the Oilers, and he didn't make it because that's a savable shot. Then there's the weird goal off Kachuk skate. He's got no chance on that one. Um, the third one was an outside shot from Gustav Forsling that hits Skinner and then goes up in the air. Like, again, and then bounces in off Emberson into the net. So it's two players with weird bounces, Skinner and Emberson, but
Mhm.
Skinner saw that puck all the way in. It's up to him to control weird bounces, as a matter of fact, on outside shots. You want good rebound control. You don't want
No
the puck
rebound at
shooting in
all.
the
No.
air. And I just think that's on the goal. Like, the goalie should do better with that shot. And that rebound on him. It's a tough one, maybe. Caught him off guard a bit. Then there's the one off his head, which is always a little bit like, what do you make of that? And not good, but what do you make of it? It's
What are you supposed to do? Like push your head
well, you'd have to
against the
stand up. You'd have to change your
crossbar?
style.
Yeah.
You'd
Yeah.
have to,
No, they teach
it's
that
they teach it, and then
inverted
it's
C
starting
or
to be
whatever the hell
exploited
it
by
is.
it's starting to be exploited, and you look bad, sure look bad when that happens. Um, I didn't have much. I don't think I have much to say about the other goals. I can't remember.
Well, the
Uh,
sixth goal, the guy shot it from the slot, but it kind of just went. He caught a
oh,
piece
that
of him
was
in
a
his upper body and went
tough
through him, and
play. That's
was that
Carter
the
Verhaeg from
save?
the slot.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like the first goal. That's
Yeah.
one where you'd like a save. It's a tough shot.
Oh,
You'd like a save. You didn't get a save. I was less worked about that one than the two or three others. So, but
yeah.
it was a tough night for Stuart Skinner. A lot of weird goals against. Uh, these things happen,
He
and
finally made a couple big saves after it was six
he
five.
did. He did.
Unfortunately, so did Bobrovsky finally make a couple of big saves after it was 6-5, except for he was the team with the lead, so his big saves were difference makers. The one he made off of Draisaitl with what, 17 seconds?
Oh, Leon, how did he miss
On,
that?
he didn't miss.
Well,
Bobrovsky
I
got
know
it.
he,
It was
but
an
how did he
incredible
not
save.
score? Is what I meant,
Yeah,
because
well,
he
because
seemed to have lots to
Bobrovsky
shoot
made a
at.
great came back and made a great save. Like that's all goalie. Like Leon didn't miss, but
Here, Bruce,
anyway,
I've tracked down Leon's 5 alarm or one timers this year. So last year in the playoffs, he had 24 and 25 games. So far this year, he's had 18 in 31 games. He scored 7 goals in the 25 playoff games on one timers. He scored 3 in 31. So as great as he's
oh,
playing, because he's playing better now than he played in the playoffs, like way better, because he was really good and then he got hurt and he wasn't that good in the playoffs. But he's been really good all year long. But his one timers are considerably down. They're about half of what we saw last year, a little bit more than half, let's say 60% of where they were last year. So that's interesting that other teams are taking away that shot, I'm going to say,
I
but
was
he
going
is
to say
still
the
finding a
same.
way to be a dominant attacker despite that. So,
Opponents defending Edmonton's power play are guarding against that shot first and foremost.
yeah.
As I know, I mean, Leon scored 32 power play goals the year before last, right? And he's led the league in that category for a
Yeah.
number of years. And so they're now sort of defaulting to take that away and take Bouchard's point shot away. And Edmonton's power play has been down a couple of courts. So
So in the last 6 seasons, Bruce, he's been a 35% scorer on his executioner shot, as we call it.
mhm.
This year, he's just at 3, 4, 18. He's at
Oh,
17%. So his not only is he getting fewer, he's scoring fewer. He seemed a little off kilter earlier in the year. Maybe he's going to heat up, now with that particular shot.
Yeah,
Sure
he's
did
only got
tonight.
23 goals, right? So
Yeah, well,
obviously
that's
something's wrong.
well, that's the weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That everything else, this is, his primary weapon is not clicking on all cylinders, but he certainly is. He's having a Hart Trophy caliber season. I don't know if he'll win the Hart Trophy, but he's got a shot at it. Bruce,
Nice
that'll
to
be my.
see him bury one on the power play anyway.
Yeah, sure was. I'll go with that as my number. What's your number?
Yeah, well, my number is 0, and it applies to Jeff Skinner in this game pretty much right across the sheet. He did have 2 takeaways and a block shot, so that speaks to his stellar defense. But on the offensive side of things, 0 shot attempts. This is off the event summary, but the real cringe stuff is on the 5v5 shot shares. Jeff Skinner, 1049, Oilers 0 shot attempts, Florida 14. 0 to 7 in shots on goal, 0 to 6 in scoring chances, 0 to 3 in uh, high danger chances, and 0 to 1 in actual goals. And his expected goals were 0, like exactly 0 to 0.92. So that -1 was fully, richly deserved based on the play going backwards basically the entire time he was on the ice. And as I single out Jeff Skinner, I'm going to give you expected goals percentage for Edmonton's bottom 6 and bottom pair. 11% for
For the
Henry.
season, Bruce, or for
Oh,
the
this is
game?
tonight.
Okay.
11% for Henry, 17% for Janmark, 2% for Ryan, 1% for Stetcher, 21% for Emberson. He's the best of this group of 8. 0.00 for Jeff Skinner, and 8% for Connor Brown, who actually scored a goal and went +1. But the entire bottom 6 and bottom 2 defensemen all got caved in this game.
Yeah, I didn't
Edmonton's
think
top
they're.
2 lines and top 4 defenders, at least and they made mistakes and goals against and stuff, but at least the puck was going in the right direction some of the time when they were out there. Edmonton's depth lines absolutely got mugged out there. And Jeff
What
Skinner,
was Corey Perry's number?
who's supposed to be, and Skinner's been playing well. He had
Yeah,
2 goals
that
and
was a
3
nice pass
assists,
to Brown.
+3 in his last 7 games. Like, that's pretty good for a guy who's not on the main power player in the top 6. And sorry, Corey Perry, tonight he was 19%. I missed him for expected goals.
Okay.
And so it was,
Catcher was 1%, did you say?
I said Stetcher was 1.01%. He was on the ice for 0.01 expected goals for, so better than Skinner. And for 0.74 expected goals against. So he did well to break even at 0-0, but he had his troubles. And it just looked like all of Edmonton's lesser players were in over their heads. As Florida's depth was better than Edmonton's depth in this game.
I just was looking at this. I have Zach Hyman's picture up on my, after he had, his nose was like Gandalf's nose.
Oh,
And his was like 2 sizes bigger than a normal human nose. That was one of the gutsiest things. That was such a great thing from Zach Hyman. I gave him a full extra mark for just coming back for the third period in his game grade. So he got a 9 out of 10. The grades were all over the place, Bruce.
yeah,
Like,
I'm
because
sure.
there was the huge differential. And one of the differences, like the second line was good again, Podkolzin and Kapanen and Draisaitl. And the other lines were not, as you say. But Podkolzin had 5 hits. So he shows he can play in a tough game like this.
And he got hit right in the numbers too.
But you know what? There's lots of players who are showing they can't. And Skinner was one of them. He had no hits, and he got taken out on that goal against with a big hit. And he's got to figure out. He's gonna have to figure out, because Kane and Arvidsson are coming back sooner or later. And in the meantime and in between time, Jeff Skinner's got to figure out how to make an impact on this team, or he's going to be sitting. And that's not what they wanted from a player that they signed for $3 million and passed up Ryan McLeod and Warren Fogle to acquire. Could have used that money on either of those two guys. And instead they went for Skinner. And he has his moments, and I like his talent, but he's a defensive liability. He's the weakest defensive winger on the Oilers right now, and he's not scoring very much.
Yeah, we had 5 points in his last 7 games, and I thought him on the Henrique Janmark line
Yeah,
was pretty good, but tonight they weren't good at all. Now,
fair enough.
just to flip my stat around, and I apologize to people who hate the expected goal stat, but it's just the one that sort of conglomerates everything and say this is roughly what you'd expect from this kind of flow of play.
It just represents their shot quality on the ice. Shot quality for versus shot quality against. That's all it is. Like,
here are the guys,
and if you think of it that way, it shouldn't be offensive to anyone.
Here's the guys on. Some people get offended pretty easily, David. Here's the guys on Florida who are over 60% tonight. We'll start with the world famous Uvis Balinskas, who was 100%, 8-0 in Corsi, and nothing against. Second on the team was Maki Samaskevich. I bet you noticed both of those guys tonight. Yeah. Nate Schmidt, AJ Green, Thomas Nosek, Jesper Boquist, Dmitry Kulikov, and Yona Gajoyevich were all over 60%.
He's the guy who smashed Skinner with a hit, Gadjevich, whatever his name is.
Yeah, well, their bottom 6 guys were just having their way with Edmonton's bottom 6, and the numbers on both sides of the equation reflect that.
Yeah, Edmonton's bottom 6 isn't good enough, and especially the bottom 3. And there's going to be there'll have to be changes in the lineup for the Oilers to win in the playoffs. It's as simple as that. And we'll see.
A team like this, and if you're swimming on every shift, struggling to get out of your own end and get a line change without icing the puck,
Well, those big guys on Florida, they look for the same thing: big physical guys you can skate and hit. And they get them, and it's just a formula. It's a simple thing, a simple philosophy of hockey. Vegas did it, Florida did it. The Oilers have got to do it, and they don't want to do it, evidently. And that's not the philosophy, at least, that Jeff Jackson had. But maybe it is Stan Bowman is going to correct that, and maybe Podkolzin will be on the 4th line by playoffs, and he'd be one of those bigger guys who hits playing on the 4th line. And I'm not saying, like, he hasn't played well on the 2nd line. He has, but when Kane and Arvidsson comes back, that'll change things a bit. So
Podkolzin had 5 hits tonight. Emerson had 4, and no other Oiler had more than 2. And on the Florida side, Bennett had 4, Greer had 4, Gadvoyevich had 4, Reinhardt had 3, Verhage had 3, Maki Samsokevich had 4, and Eetu Luostarinen had 6, and Nico Mikkola had 3. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys with 3 or more hits to 2 on Edmonton. And I would suggest that some of that hitting affected the flow of play. That Edmonton was getting knocked around, and Florida was winning the puck.
Not good. Not good. Anyway, one game and
one game. Revenge game against the Stanley Cup champions. That kind of didn't really go the way we would have liked, but one game.
Yeah.
Hard to be too critical. That said, David, we were critical last game of Edmonton's defensive performance, and it carried over. They've been playing really good defense backed by really good goaltending for the last quite a long time. Like, they only gave in 17 goals in the prior 9 games before tonight.
Yeah.
Like under 2 per game. But last game, the cracks started to show, and tonight the cracks just broke open.
Crack. Bruce, what's the next game?
Thursday against Boston Bruins. I'll be going to that game, David, and looking forward to it. And I suspect in the 2 days between then and now, with no travel, that Edmonton might be doing a little bit of work on the defensive fundamentals.
Yeah.
And we might see a lot more boring game on Thursday than we did tonight. And frankly, at this moment, I welcome it.
Fair.
Tonight's game was too frantic by half. should have been in control, and they weren't.
Bruce, to end the podcast, I want to give a non-hockey recommendation, which I sometimes do. So I love all things Christmas, Christmas music, Christmas decorations, Christmas. Anyway, great Christmas movie on Netflix is called Love Hard, which is a
Well,
bit of a takeoff on Die Hard. And it is a
well,
very clever romantic comedy, which I highly recommend for people who like Christmas movies. So
a
Love
lot of
Hard.
Christmas movies out there. My wife has gotten into these Hallmark
Ooh,
Christmas
sorry to hear that,
movies.
Bruce.
I find them unwatchable, David. I really do. And she knows better than to watch them when I'm around. But sometimes I come out and she's in the middle of watching one, like might well be happening after this podcast. And I just sort of wince and cringe and
There you
curl
go.
up in a fetal position.
You know, there's about 20 movies on Netflix, Christmas movies on Netflix made in the last 5 years, and almost all of them are hated by in the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes.
I
And
believe
the
it.
way I found this movie Love Hard is it was the only one. The critics didn't
Uh-huh.
like it,
Oh,
but I don't
really?
care about the
Okay.
critics. But the audience had a 91% approval rating of this movie, and that's what I usually look for. Is one the critics didn't like, but the audience loves, because that's often a good sign it's a good movie, or at least one I'm going to enjoy. So, and that's what exactly happened. But by and large, like there's like the Christmas movies in the last 5 years get about 20 to 50% audience approval, which is a really bad sign. Like there's
Well,
some
they're really
50% audience
popular.
approval movies. Go
The
ahead.
50% approval must be the 50% watching it, and the people that don't approve must not watching it
Well,
because
maybe it's your wife voting 100 times.
apparently a lot of people love them. They're safe movies, right? Like
Yes,
before it starts, it's going to have a happy ending, and
fair enough.
there's anyway.
To each their
That's
own.
yeah, yeah. I prefer Die Hard as a Christmas movie myself.
Well,
So
you go.
that's just me.
You can say your wife's name is Anna, correct? You can go
Yes.
to say, Anna, listen, there's a great romance I want to watch. It's called Love Hard. And Bruce,
Okay.
I can't
All right.
guarantee you'll like it, but it's fairly witty and it's kind of interesting, so you might.
Well, there's a less chance I'm going to actively hate it from what you described. So I'll
Okay.
recommend it to her. Whether I watch it or not is another thing entirely, but
Okay.
we'll see how that goes.
Bruce, thanks for talking tonight.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
And in the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.